Hello and welcome to Pattern Making with Let Morris. I'm back again. I wasn't able to post something last week, but I'm here this week again, and I'm trusting you all have been well and keeping safe. I just want to thank you all again for watching, who has been watching and following, and I hope all of this is bringing value to you. So this week I'm going to be doing another skirt. There's so many skirts, hundreds of skirts, but I just want to do this skirt. It's got some pleating at the bottom, right? It's these are called knife pleats. We're going to be doing some knife pleats, and we've got a style line here on the front. We haven't got any on the back. It's just a plain back with a center back zip. And these are just style features, so we're just going to stitch that down onto there after we've faced that out. But it's just to show you how we arrive at the pleats for this skirt. You can also send this out for pleating. You know, they've got companies that do pleating. You just send out a straight piece, and then when it comes back you can put your pattern shape on it and cut out. But I'm just going to show you, if you're not in the position to get your pleating done, how you can do it yourself. So today this is what I'm going to be doing. So I hope you just grab your paper, pencil, scissors, you know, all the things that you know that you need, because I always go through this every time, and tape measure, scissors, and so forth, all the things that you need. And we're just going to go straight ahead into this. So once again, I want to say to you, thank you for watching. And don't forget to comment, to share, and to subscribe as you watch. So thank you again, and I hope you're able to start to do something for yourself from your blocks, because everything that I do from a block pattern, from the skirt block, from the sleeve block, from the bodice block. So we can get any style that we want from these pieces of block. So here we go. Once we decide and we know what style we're doing, we just go straight ahead. I can put this drawing on one side, and then we've got our blocks, our skirt blocks here, and we're ready to start. We've got our tools ready. You've got your papers, whatever paper you use, spot or cross. And first of all, what we do is we mark out the shape of the block on a new sheet of paper, which I've already done. So I've got the front here and I've got the back there. So we can put those away for the minute. We're going to start off with a front. So this is the front, and what I've done is I've pre-marked the style, the shape, the design of the skirt onto the block. So you've got to decide on where you want that line to be. It can be higher up or it can be lower, depending on how long the skirt is. So I've taken it, I've measured the length of the skirt that I want from the top to this line, which I've drawn along here. I'll just draw that again. That's the length of the skirt I'm going to use. And I've marked on the design of the style that I want. The next thing I do, I decide on how deep I want my pleat and how the spacing that I need each pleat to be. And once you've got that, what you then begin to do is to measure it from where, this is my first pleat here, where your first pleat start. You decide on how wide you want the next one, where the next one's going to be. And this is what I've done. I've marked the first line there, and I want the pleats to be 1.5 inches spacing, but I want the pleat to finish 3/4 inch. So I'm going to make the width of the pleat 1.5 inches. So first of all, you mark how many pleats you can get on your skirt, which I've already done. You can get 24, it just depends on you. So this is the amount of pleats that I want on here. And to get that, I do my first, this is my side seam, and I don't want one to right on the side seam. So I've taken it an 1.5 inches away, and I'm going to make my first pleat. So the depth of my pleat, I'm going to want it to be 1.5 inches. So from that point, I measure 1.5 inches, and I connect the lines like that. And then I make my space when I go to make my pleat. So I'm going to make all the spacing the same all the way till I get right to the other end of the side seam, the other side seam, because this pattern is going to be a right side up pattern, right? So you measure the space that you want each pleat to be, and then you draw a line along there. So this is what I've done here. So once I've done that, I am going to trace off this top section of my skirt, which is this section here from the waist down to that point, because this is going to be just a style feature, a design line that I'm going to stitch across there to hold my facing in place when I've done it. So I've taken it down to here. So I'm just going to shade the lines in, the pieces in, so that you can see where I'm at and what I'm going to do. So first of all, I'm going to take off this section here, like that, down to there, along there, along there, along there, along there, and along there. Once I've done that, I'm going to trace it off, and then I'm going to put in my darts on my new sheet of paper, which I've already pre-done one. So I'm just going to pull that out so that you can see. So this is what it looks like when I've traced it off like that. I've traced off the section here that I want. Here I've got my darts in, and then I have allowed my seam allowance all around the side, around the edge here, around the side and around the waist. And I've got my darts in, and then I write on there right side up. So that is the right side up of the front section. So that is the top half of the actual skirt that we're doing, which is that one. So once we've done that, we can put that on one side. And now the next thing we have to do is we're going to trace off this section here from the top section now. So if I shade that in, so we're going to shade that up to that point, down, down, down. This is the bottom section of the actual pleated section that we're going to do. So once we've got that marked off, we traced off. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to trace that section off so that we have that on a sheet of paper waiting for us to mark out our pleats. So I'm going to trace this section off here on a new sheet of paper. I'm going to put my grain line on, which is there and there, and I'm going to transfer it onto this section here like that. I'm going to place that onto a grain line, onto that grain line, onto there, so that I know that is. And with my tracing wheel, I'm going to trace this section here off down to there, because these are just your style features along there. And I'm going to go up the side here and up the side there, and I'm going to take that right across. I'll just put a mark and then I'll connect up with my ruler like this. That's the hem line. That's my grain line here, and then this is my line that I've traced off here, the design line, onto here. I'm just going to draw it on so that we can see it. And then this is also right side up, and then you can see where I've drawn the lines in for the pleat. They come along there and along there and along there. The spacing, which is inch and a half. Okay, so once we've got that now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut that shape out, because I'm going to want that shape as a template after I've done my pleats, so I can place that onto the pleats to get the shape that I want, because this is very important, because after you've done the pleats, it has to come back to fit this section that we have marked off here. So I just want to cut that out and leave it on the side so that we can I can show you how that is done. So we take that off, and you've got to just imagine that you've got the lines on for your where you want the pleats to come, right? I'll do a few of those so that you can see. So that is the side seam, and I want it to be 1.5 inches spacing. So you mark your lines on 1.5 inches, you measure, you make sure you've got the lines on 1.5 inch space, 1.5 inch space, 1.5 inch pace, and you do that all the way along. You can take it up from the bottom all the way up along there, right? So that is that piece. So you can put that piece on one side. So the next thing we have to do on a new sheet of paper, what I'm going to do is going to mark on the pleats that we want. So I'm going to take a straight line there, and I'm going to do the spacing, the width of the pleat that I want. I want it to finish 3/4, so I've got to make it 3 inches wide. So that's my first pleat, the width of it, 3 inches. But when I've made the pleat, it's going to finish 3/4 inch. So that's my first pleat there. So it's going to come over like that way, because I want them to go that way. So you can see where the arrow is. So this is my first pleat. So if I just crease that so that you can see. Now this is going to take a little while because it's not a quick job. So I'm just going to do a few so that you can see. And then I'll bring the one that's already done, that I already done. So you've got to do all of this all the way along to the amount of pleats that you've marked on along this way. So you've got to make all the pleats. So after you've done the first, that's your first pleat, which is 3 inches of your pleat, but you're only going to see 3/4 inch. You only have 1 inch, 1.5 inch depth of your pleats, because you've made it 3 inches. So once you've got that, then you've got to measure the space, which is 1.5 inch spacing. That's the space that you want on there. Another pleat, 1.5 inch. And then you're going to draw a straight line to connect. And then after you've drawn that line, you've got to measure again the amount of pleat that you want in there, which is 3 inches that we're going to put in. So you then measure 3 inches to there, and at the bottom 3 inches, and then you connect a line again. So that was now your next pleat. So that is your next pleat, and then you complete it again. You fold it on that line like that. Make sure it's creased and it's folding over to that line. So that is now your second pleat, and you just got to follow that all the way along till you get the amount of pleat that you have drawn onto your bottom bit right across. So you just pleat them up as you go along. So this is, I'm going to put that one on one side, and just to show you what it looks like when you finish. So you'd have had your, if I open that out, you can see how and where I've started the first pleat there, and I've got the arrows going all the way along there. So you have to do that with the process that I've just shown you. So if I just bring that pleat back to that one back to that one back to that one, it pleats up, it will pleat all the way along. This is hand pleating, you're doing it by yourself, but if you take it to a pleating company, they've already got it all set up. So all they do is just pleat your fabric for you. But if you haven't got access to that, this is how you create your pleat. So if I just put those all together so that you can see, so you can see the amount of pleat that it takes across that piece. So it's like that. And if I just hold that together, you will see the pleats that we've got. So for this section here, if I put that back onto here now, you will see the amount of pleat. So we're taking it from that line down onto there, back onto there, because we've got a seam allowance on there. We haven't got any on the block, but I've allowed a seam allowance there. So you bring that back to your seam, and all we do is, when that is backed onto there and all your pleats are folded out to the amount that you want, all we're going to do is to trace on that line and trace on that line across there, so we get the shape that we want. So once we've done that, we can move our pattern piece off, like out the way, and then you can see where we've traced the line and we're getting that same shape that we've got here. So once you've got that, we then add the seam allowance, which is along there, because it's got to be joined back onto this piece here. After we put the seam allowance on, that joins back onto there like that. And then what we do is we're going to stitch, we're going to face this section out, and then we're going to have a top stitching along here to hold that down on top of your pleats like that. So this is how we create the pleat if we haven't got access to send it out to get the pleaters to do it. So that's how we create that section there. I hope you can follow that. If not, we can go through that again. We're going to break for the moment.